Bathroom Breaks and Bedtime Tales presents Reckonin' in the Dust, Grady Hart, Episode 4, Part 3, by Sevastian Winters. The Texas desert stretched out in front of Grady Hart and Sam Rawlins as the sun dipped low, turning the sky a fiery red. Dust and heat swirled through the air, gritty against their skin, and the horizon stretched out like a fading memory. Guthrie was already behind them, and Laredo still lay ahead, but something in the distance caught Grady's eye. Smoke curling into the sky, too far from any town to be from friendly folk. "Campfire," Sam muttered, squinting toward the horizon. "Ain't nobody settling this far out." Grady gave a short nod. "We'd best take a look." As they neared the camp, the sight of a lone rough tent and shadowy figures came into view. A group of 6 men sat around a fire, laughing and passing a bottle. But it wasn't the men that grabbed Grady's attention. It was the girl, tied to a tree near the fire. She wasn't slumped over in defeat. She sat tall, chin raised, eyes flashing with defiance, even as dirt streaked her face. The air was thick with tension, the kind that sets a man's instincts on edge. Grady dismounted quietly, motioning for Sam to follow. They crept closer, staying low, until they could hear the conversation. "I say we have a little fun before we turn her loose, naked and barefoot like that last one," one of the men, a beefy brute, said with a cruel grin. "I bet she didn't make it half a day." He took a step toward the girl, his hands reaching for her. The girl's eyes narrowed, and without warning, she shot her leg forward and planted her boot square in the man's crotch. He let out a high-pitched yelp and crumpled to the ground, clutching himself in agony. The other men burst into laughter, slapping their knees at the sight of their friend writhing in the dirt. "Well, damn," one of the others hooted. "She's got more fight in her than we thought." Grady's jaw tightened. He liked her spirit, but he knew it wouldn't be enough to keep her safe much longer. The men would only find their laughter amusing for so long. It was time to act. He nodded to Sam, and the two of them stepped out from the shadows, guns drawn. "Reckon you boys might want to leave her be," Grady said, his voice cold and steady. The laughter died immediately, and 6 heads turned in their direction. One of the men, the leader by the way the others looked at him, sneered as he stood. "And who the hell are you supposed to be?" he asked, his hand hovering near his gun. "Just someone passing through," Grady replied, his gaze steady. "But you're about to make this my business." The leader's eyes flicked to his friends, then back to Grady and Sam. "We don't want no trouble, but we sure as hell ain't handing her over without a fight." Grady's eyes flicked to the girl, who met his gaze with a cool, steady look. She wasn't afraid. Good. "You boys have already lost," Sam said, his tone matter-of-fact. "I'd cut your losses and start walking." The leader spat into the dirt. "You ain't gonna shoot all of us." Sam grinned. "Maybe not, but we'll sure as hell enjoy trying." The standoff broke in an instant. The leader went for his gun, but Grady was faster. His Colt barked once, twice, and the man crumpled where he stood, a hole in his chest and another in the center of his forehead. 2 more men scrambled for their weapons, but Sam fired off 2 quick shots, dropping them before they could even pull the trigger. The remaining men, stunned and suddenly aware of how quickly things had gone south, froze in place. Grady's gun didn't waver. "Drop 'em." One by one, the outlaws tossed their guns into the dirt, hands raised in surrender. "Now strip," Sam added, his rifle still aimed at the group. "Boots, too. We'll see how long y'all last out here like that." The outlaws hesitated, but Grady's cold stare made it clear there wasn't a choice. Grumbling and cursing under their breath, the men stripped down to their underwear, kicking off their boots. "Panties too, boys. I didn't stutter," Sam said mischievously. Grady felt a tug at the corner of his mouth, trying to pull him into a grin, but he suppressed it and reclaimed his glare. "Start walking." "You can't just leave us out here," one of them protested, but a look from Grady silenced him. "Can't?" "Please, mister," one of the men begged. Grady pulled out his sidearm, aimed a bullet inches from the man's foot, and fired. "Next one goes in your knee." Sam stepped forward, kicking the pile of guns and boots further away from him. "Don't much care what happens to you boys. Just don't let us see you again." The outlaws, humiliated and weaponless, started trudging into the desert, their heads down. Sam stood watch. Grady turned his attention to the girl, who was already struggling to untie herself from the tree. He stepped closer, offering her a hand, but she shook her head and tried to blow the sandy blonde hair from her face. She was young, barely 20, with a stubborn, defiant glint in her eye that Grady couldn't help but respect. "You all right?" Sam asked, watching her closely. She nodded, dusting off her pants and adjusting her boots. "Do I look okay?" she asked fiercely, her voice steady despite the ordeal. "Cut me loose." Grady reached for his bowie knife and made his way around the sapling they had her tied to, bent down, and with a quick twist of his wrist sliced through the rope that held her. She scrambled to her feet as if to run. "Where you think you're headed?" Grady asked, his tone gruff but not unkind. "Home," she replied, her voice quiet but firm. "To San Antonio." "That's gotta be 5 days' ride south," Sam said. "Took 8, she said. "They made me walk." Grady gave her a long look, then glanced at Sam. "Reckon she'll be safer riding with us." "Reckon so. We seem to have acquired some spare horses." "What's your name, sweetheart?" Grady asked. "It don't matter," she said. "We going to San Antonio or not?" Clearly eager to get moving, but not too keen on talking, she walked over to one of the extra horses, a big brown gelding with a white patch covering most of its face, and swung herself up into the saddle with practiced ease, her chin lifted, eyes forward. "Not so fast," said Grady. He pointed at things the outlaws had left behind. "We've got a perfectly good campfire here. Grub, sleeping mats. I reckon we should get some shut-eye, and we can ride in the morning." The girl seemed to consider what they proposed, and slipped from the saddle as easily as she'd climbed into it. She walked toward Grady, eyes still troubled. She reached for the knife still in his hand. He released it. In a sudden move, she spun it and stuck the tip to the underside of Grady's chin. "Okay, but if either one of you tries anything, I will cut your balls off." Grady finally released the grin he had been holding down inside of him. Ignoring her, he turned his attention to Sam. He was grinning too. "I like her," he said. "She's got spirit." The girl's face shot flames through the firelight. "I mean it," she said. She threw her hands to her sides and stood to her full height, about half a foot lower than Grady's, before turning and marching toward the only tent. "The tent is mine," she said. "Don't come in." Grady bent down and picked up a small ham sitting near the fire and threw it into the tent with her. "We ride at dawn," he said. As it turned out, everyone was awake an hour before the sun found its way into the Texas morning. By the light of the moon, Grady and Sam gathered what they could from the camp, extra saddlebags, which turned out to be full of money, rifles, and supplies. The girl once again mounted on the large gelding and rode in silence behind them as they set off into the dark, the sound of hooves clopping steadily through the dust. They had new horses, extra supplies, a crap ton of money, and a quiet but formidable traveling companion. "I don't suppose you know the story of where all that money came from?" Sam asked the girl. There was silence for a moment, and then she responded, "I'll tell you when I trust you." Grady grinned. Whoever she was, he liked her.